Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
Working a lot this weekend because all these previews that are dropping.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a big flood of previews this weekend.
Yeah, the 40K one's going to be at 4 a.m. Eastern on Saturday morning.
Well, I'll see it all when I wake up.
Yeah, I think everybody will. Like
it's honestly, dude, like I don't know if I'm going to watch like the live ones anymore because like they don't have like entertaining personalities to do these.
I don't know. I think the ones with Eddie and why am I drawing a blank?
I don't know. Like I don't say this to be like mean because like they're fine and they're good at their jobs and like I'm sure they're nice people, but when a lot of the airtime is either like dead air or they're not prepared enough in their presentation to speak without breaks. They say a whole lot. They say a whole lot. There's like pauses, different things like that. And everybody kind of does that. You know, we're all human. But when it's a pre-made, planned out production where they have like teleprompters that they're reading off of and different things, it could be more entertaining. And that's the main thing. Like I check out because so much of it is kind of like waffle speech or like just filler speech.
I think a lot of it is revealed to them very like briefly before the show starts. Like they don't have a lot of advanced prep, I think. But for me, the last one was probably the worst, the one with Brant in it, because it seemed like he was kind of bullying Eddie the whole time, which I didn't quite understand. And
there was some over talking for sure, which is another thing that is kind of a pet peeve of mine. And it happens. Like we all do it, right? You got to get like a flow with the people that you're presenting with, or like you're just talking to people on Discord or whatever. You got to get a flow going. So over talking was definitely a problem, and that worsened the experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. But hopefully this one is more entertaining for sure. They're definitely putting a lot into it, and we knew that there was going to be a lot to it. But the fact that they pretty much didn't say anything this week,
of course, they're saving it all for the thing.
But I don't think they really had to. Like, if you don't have that much content that you have to save it up for the weekend, like,
I don't know, man. Like, we've seen a good grip of previews. But I think it's literally just like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to a whole new, there's so many aspects of 10th edition that we have no idea on. Just even like basic core rules mechanics, we have no idea how it's going to work. We just have these little tiny tidbits out of context. So there's a huge amount of stuff that they have kept behind closed doors on 10th edition.
Well, I think they're saving a lot of it, but they're going to have walkthroughs and stuff at the event. So that's cool. I feel like they could have definitely put out more content this week. I don't know why they felt they didn't need to. Like, it was very strange to see kind of what transpired this week, as far as it's almost like they didn't have anything to say, which is very abnormal for them. But the good news is there's no allocations for stores, so they can get, in theory, whatever they need.
Set.
What's that?
I want to see the box set. I'm very excited about it.
Oh, for 10th?
Yeah. I mean, like, we know the Terminators are obviously going to be in there. They're sick. The Librarian is probably going to be on there. Easily my favorite Librarian model next to Tigerius, just out the gate. It's so good looking. I want to know what else is going to be in the box set and how many of them I'm going to buy.
Yeah, I think everything they previewed will come in the box set, because that like why build it up that much, right? So I think that's super important. But that being said, I think we have to mitigate our expectations too, because we haven't had a real smooth rollout of anything this year. And we all remember Indominus. So that didn't go so well either. And I feel like it's a lot of stores are being very cautious this June.
Yeah. And, when GW does something wrong, we're like, D-, bad move, right? But when they do something good, we give them an attaboy, right? Try to stay objective with things. And I think for the most part, Games Workshop is a company of people that learns from mistakes. I think that this allocation thing is probably a type of course correction that they had to do, as we've seen with overstocking on stuff that nobody wanted in the first place and having to get rid of it, AKA Dumpster Wars 40K. So I'm hoping that with the feedback that they've gotten and, course correcting off of mistakes in the past, that they fix this and it moves forward for the better. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. That's all any of us can do, but there's plenty of other alternatives out there in this day and age. And I don't think people are afraid to try anything.
First Claw Holland is talking about the Lions stats. I think he's fine. See that, like I've talked about this before on the cast. Maybe you have or have not seen it, but releasing Primarchs is kind of a lose-lose situation, I think. Other than a cool model, the model is dope. You can't argue that, right? They've always make dope models, but it's kind of a lose-lose because if they release the data sheet with the kind of lower level of power that we all kind of have in our heads, whoever your favorite Primarch is, it's a bad situation because that then becomes incredibly overpowered and causes feel bads on the tabletop. You might be having a great time because you get your wish fulfillment. I got my Gilliman, I got my Angron, I got my, whoever, and you're just stomping dicks left and right. But your opponent is having a terrible time. And then it might be bad enough to where your community is like, you can't play with Primarchs. Because that did happen a lot when Gilliman was really, really good in 8th edition. There were times where people were like, we don't want to play you if you play Gilliman, or like for Friday Night Warhammer, no Gillimans allowed. And then you get the feels bads because you're like, damn it, I waited all this time and I can't even play with my toy. And then they get nerfed, and that's a feels bad, right? Maybe to the point where you can't even play the model because they nerfed it so hard, right?
That's a feels bads.
On the other side of that spectrum, they release it, like downplayed to like, well, let's release this Primarch. Let's make him, a solid epic level character, but not OP. And then people get the feels bads because they're like, well, when Gilliman came out, he was really strong. And when Abaddon came out, he was really strong. And when Angron came out, he was really strong. And now my guy is balanced. So I don't get the really strong era of my cool guy. And that causes feels bads. So, I mean, you just got to kind of roll with the punches. I think that the Lion has a fantastic data sheet. And you just kind of have to like play around it. And it might be one of those situations where he's kind of like suffering from success, where they learned lessons with Gilliman's rule set and they learned lessons with Abaddon's rule set. And they're releasing this guy in a state that's like really good, but is going to cause the least amount of feels bads all around.
Well, plus all this is big old asterisks because everything's changing in like 2 months.
Yeah. Who was it? Oh yeah, Jim. He said GW can't have good presenters because they might be able to break away and do something else
and actually get paid.
You're right. And like, to be fair, being entertainers is not those guys' job description, which is why I'm trying to just be like, this is my opinion. This is kind of why I don't like watching it, but somebody else might get enjoyment.
Yeah, lots of people watch them.
I find those like boring to watch. And when they kind of hype it as like, oh, tune in for this live presentation for all the hot new stuff, blah, blah, blah. I kind of expect a level of production value and polish from a company like that. Because, I mean, credit where it's due, their presentation little center, I'm sure it's just a set inside HQ.
It is.
Looks really nice. High production value, great audio quality, great visual quality, great, transitions on the live stream to do all this stuff with small human errors here and there. But when the focus is two guys talking to each other or talking to you, the audience, about stuff, you got to have some cogent thoughts. You got to be able to string sentences together without weird breaks or saying ums and ahs between every word, and think about stuff. And yeah, I realize I just did that a little bit too, but I'm off the cuff and not have a presentation ready. And that's kind of my thing is when I have a presentation ready, when I have a tutorial ready that I'm going to do on the live stream, it's different than just stream of consciousness stuff. And I feel like if they're going to do these presentations that they expect tons and tons of people to tune in for, script it a little bit. That's okay. You're doing a PowerPoint for all intents and purposes, right? Have a little bit of a script going, practice it.
I think some of that is scripted for sure. But, there's a lot of ad lib too, where they talk about, whatever their personal experience and stuff or their personal favorites. So I think there's a little bit of that. And that's why we watch these things is because we resonate with a certain individual or whatever. Right. So I can see that. And I think, is it Andy? Why do I not? I can't remember for the life of me. Anyways.
Bald guy with goatee?
Yeah.
I don't know his name either. He's bald guy with goatee.
That's rude. But
I mean, that's a fact.
Those are the two best folks they've had on there to do it for sure. We've seen a lot of combinations.
Presenter. I've seen him do presentations live at stuff like LVO and Adepticon and
It's Adam Truck.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It took me a while there. Jeez. So regardless, I think those two, that's the best team they've had. And I don't mind watching them, but at a certain point, they just don't know. I mean, Eddie shockingly knows a large amount of stuff. And I think it would be a huge blow to GW if they ever lost Eddie, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
That I feel like would be really bad for them. So hopefully, he stays there for a while, but he's got a lot of camera time and I'm sure he could definitely do a lot out there, for, his own gig or something like that. So, at the end of the day, you gotta be like, what makes you happy as a person and to get paid. And it's definitely not getting any easier out there for any of these folks.
No, I mean, it's hard too, because we've seen it enough times with their presenters that very clearly these people are natural talents that they recognize and then prop up to do certain things like Duncan and Peachy and I'm sorry, I forget her name. The gal. Yeah. And then they get really popular really fast because Games Workshop has a lot of brand zealots. And then they're like, oh, I am getting paid doo-doo dog water for the amount of work I'm performing. I'm going to go get paid on Patreon like tomorrow, like later, guys. And that's completely understandable.
I get that too, but I've always been a big proponent of value and accountability. And I think that you got to still bring something to the table. Like, yeah, those folks won the GW lottery because they already have that pre-built audience, right?
Yeah.
Which is great. But that will only get you so far for so long. Because if you're not, bringing that value and accountability and you're standing there with your hand open, that just doesn't work. Like it doesn't matter who you are. Yeah, you'll get a certain level of folks and success and following and financial, revenue from it. But is that sustainable for your life as a job? Like I had to explain to somebody asked me recently, they're like, hey, what else do you do besides spiky bits? And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, what else do you do besides spiky bits? And I was like, no, man, that's my job. Like we got a staff of this many, like I'm up at 4:30 a.m. Yeah. Like we're going, man. We're getting it done. And I was like, yeah, I cover a lot of ground. And, it explained this. They're like, oh, I thought it was just a hobby or I thought it was just a blog. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to see from the outside in what it all is. But, a lot of these YouTubers, a lot of folks' favorite, YouTube content creators out there, that might, especially now, like revenue from January is down like 50% plus on across the board on all advertising platforms, right? So like a lot of these folks, like it's down right now. So like if you don't have all these revenue streams coming in with like the Patrons, YouTube, another side hustle, another income stream, like a site, like a whatever. It's rough out there right now if that is your one thing. And that's why it's, good to get your content and get as many things going as possible as a content creator, as many platforms as possible, because it's rough. It's definitely rough out there if you rely on advertising revenue as your only source of income. So, nothing's guaranteed. You have to find the audience. You have to, provide that value and accountability, and just show up when you say you're gonna, and put out the content you say you're gonna.
Yeah, heroes. I don't know, Jeff. Like, I think 40K sometimes has a couple of issues when it comes to balancing things. Characters are definitely one of those things. We've gone through many a cycle of heroes being either lame or too strong, to the point where like there was a good long while in like 4th and 5th edition where like named characters were banned from organized play.
Yeah,
where people were real boomers about it.
Bringing independent characters was a no go.
Jeez. And vehicles is another one. So personally, one of the things that I like about 40K is that it's a science fiction IP. Age of Sigmar, super cool. They have beautiful models. It's got a tight rule set. Tons of people like it. Can be said about a lot of different games, right? I'm a big sci-fi fan, at least when it comes to like this hobby. And for me, a lot of the soul of 40K is like sucked out of it if the game devolves into only infantry play. Because at that point, you're basically just playing like it could be any other game, right? It could be like Napoleonics, right? With different rules and guys in space armor. But when you add in things like the hover bikes or like walkers, demon engines, tanks, airplanes, stuff like that, then it really kind of comes to life, which is why properly balancing vehicles is always a big point with me. Because like on top of just enjoying 40K, I'm a big tank nerd. I just think tanks are cool. And so whenever the edition gets to a point where like tanks are unviable, I lose a little bit of my like enjoyment of the game. And that's also why I typically tend to skew away from certain factions. Because like my first and foremost love is Ultramarines or just Space Marines in general. I think they're cool. And if Space Marines can't play with things like dreadnoughts and tanks, I don't really want to play them because I just don't think they're as cool. So I end up shifting to something like Death Guard or regular Chaos Space Marines, where I can play with stuff like Plagueburst Crawlers and Blight Haulers or your Demon Engines and regular Chaos different things like that, because that's what really makes it kind of like a sci-fi IP for me, rather than just like any basic pew pew World War II game with a sci-fi skin on it.
I think that's what gets a lot of people. We've talked about this on the show before. You see that shit. You see that dreadnought in the case, that painted up dreadnought, or you see that that painted up tank, especially now with all the dope floaty tanks and super big dreadnoughts and shit, and all the dope ass forge roll pieces. Like, imagine if you saw like a Warlord Titan in the case at like your local store these days, right?
Well, I mean, you've been to Birdsong's store. Like, that's that's where you introduce people to Warhammer. Oh my God. All of this stuff.
Birdsong actually sold his store.
Did he really?
Yeah.
When did he do that?
A couple months ago. I think January, February. He sold it to a guy named Wallace, one of the guys that started the UTC group.
Oh, okay. I mean, like, I knew he wasn't really in it for the store. It was mostly just like a clubhouse. But
well, I mean, everybody wants. Yeah, it's a long story, but yeah, it's everybody wants something different from a game store, right? But yeah, I think it was good for all parties involved. I mean, he still goes there and stuff as far as
it was super cool when I went there. I mean, I hope it's the same.
Yeah, it's dope. So there was actually a store. I was in a Facebook post. There was a store that was like, we're considering dropping Games Workshop, and it's like, oh, and the comments were fucking fire about it, like, and not in the way you would think. Like, people like mad about it. They were like, yeah, do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be honest, I don't know that Warhammer really needs storefront shelf stock. The majority of the time, you go to any store where you live. So go to any store in America, and people will be playing Warhammer. People will be playing stuff like Marvel, Star Wars Legion, maybe Marvel Crisis Protocol, Infinity, stuff like that.
Soon to be Shatterpoint.
Yeah, soon to be Shatterpoint. And they pick up stuff from time to time. But most of the time, I think if you were to poll like 100 people that play Warhammer, most of the time people only go to the store for stuff they need. So they know what they want before they go. Like, I got to go get this paint. I got to go get a dry brush. I got to go get this box of models, or for pre-orders. Mm-hmm. Very, very, very infrequently will you have people that go to just look around and see what you got and make purchases. A lot of times people will be in a store and they'll look around, but they will not buy anything. Or they'll look around and they'll ask you if you have something. And if they don't, maybe they'll order it. Most of the time they'll be like, oh, well, I'll come back later. Right. So if I would say, like, if stores had the ability to continue to order things, like if they could still do pre-orders, there's no reason to hold shelf stock. Like, it's superfluous because people already know what they want before they even come in the store. And if it's paint, then there's way better distro for different paint companies than Citadel, and way better prices and way better quality from other brands. And you could stock that and be just fine. Different hobby products and things of that nature. And people would still, I think the store would still make money off of it, but I don't think GW needs to have shelf stock.
I disagree with you. There's always going to be the impulse buy, which is why you have the shit up by the counter. There's buying paints isn't going to support having tables in there. And that's the thing, is most people don't have a game table or want people to come over to their house. So that's why they go to the store. So unless you're mitigating, if you're not going to sell Games Workshop and you're still going to have game tables, not card tables.
Yeah. You'd have to adopt kind of a club kind of format.
You need some sort of subscription deal.
Yeah.
There's a store here in town that opened up about a year ago, and they do a membership fee. It gets you, kind of like the gym membership deal where you get
Bazooka.
Yeah. You get like, I think it's 8 to midnight, 8 a.m. to midnight. You can go in. Like, who the fuck's going to be playing after midnight? Like, whatever. Who cares? I don't care. I've never been there past. I mean, I go to sleep at like 9 o'clock. I'm basically an old person at this point. So Yeah, and if you know you're going to want something, you're going to pre-order it. Half the time since February, you can't even get the GW stuff. Like, so there's that, but you can always get like whatever else. And I think you have to have a good rapport with the game store to special order something. And, traditionally that is the thing that pisses people off the most, is when you special order something and it doesn't come in, right? Like, right. Or they just don't take your order, or they don't have a way to take your order. They don't even have a point of sale system. Like that's what pisses gamers off the most, because everybody in their mind knows I can go get that on Amazon, and it's going to be on Amazon unless it's like direct order from GW or something like that at that point. Right. So, you have to be cognizant of that. Like if you're going to be a retailer, but GW has a pretty decent margin. The margin on GW stuff is pretty good, because it doesn't turn as quick as, say, Magic the Gathering or whatever, or card games in general. But their paints are consumables and they turn quick, right? But still, it's not enough to support just having a game table. So, right. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like if you're a retailer and you get Warhammer, the Warhammer hobby, it's a great fit until they do dumb shit like the caps they've been doing. If you're a comic book store or a baseball card store or somebody that doesn't get GW and you're relying on the GW rep to tell you what's good, that's not necessarily a good thing, because the motherfuckers are there to sell you shit.
Community building is really important for maintaining GW shelf stock. Right. Because if you don't cater to the people that come into your store all the time with their wants and needs, then they're going to go somewhere else real fast. Because like, oh, well, the Emerald Tavern over here, they have the Custodes box that I want. Yep.
And, it's somebody's always going to have something you want, right? That just goes without saying. I mean, it's like trying to build a Magic deck with just the cards at your local game store. It's almost impossible unless you live next to like Star City or Cape Fear Games, or name some other big card retailer, right? That you can actually walk in and get the shit. Next to impossible. So people are always going to have to like go online to Card Kingdom or TCG Player or whatever to get the cards they want, right? That's just a thing. And 40K is starting to get to that point. And I think, if I had to make a prediction, once everything drops with the new edition and people find out like, yo, I need this, yo, I need that, yo, I need this, the hot stuff always gets bought up and it disappears. And then you have to go to like secondary and tertiary sellers. And that's when people dig a little deeper, because the larger sellers are going to be out of stock. GW is going to be out of stock. And then you start just doing Google searches, trying to find people with the stuff in stock, right? And buying it. So that's just the world we live in. Like, as far as game stores go.
Yeah. I don't know. I almost feel like if Games Workshop shifted to a pre-order model similar to the way that other stuff works, where you could order stuff like months out, they would have a much better time fulfilling all the orders and, still turning huge profits on stuff. But I don't think they want to, because even with all of this allocation stuff, they're selling all their orders. Like they're selling everything they make, and they're making good money. So I don't know. Seems like they're a very, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality with the way they do business.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, you've got, I would say, when it comes to retailers, and I'm sure everybody listening and watching can sympathize. Like, you got folks that get it. They're in the business. They're there for it to be the living. They're there for the long haul. They're going to take care of you. And then you've got the folks that treat their game stores like a clubhouse. And they're just like, whatever, man. Like, I'm retired, or this is my job. And they don't really know what they're doing, but they scraped that 10 grand together that they thought it was going to take to run a game store. And yeah, they're going to be out of business in like 8 months or whatever. But they haven't realized all these things it hasn't dawned on them yet. And like all this other stuff. And, there's all sorts of variants. There's so low perceived barrier to entry to run a game store and own a game store that like, people don't realize it. Like, I think we talked about it before too. Like, just because you can cook a burger on the stove doesn't mean you're going to open a restaurant, because you realize, the cheapest commercial kitchen I can put in a restaurant is probably like 60 grand. And that was before COVID, right? You might do the oil changes yourself, but you're not going to open up like a garage to do it commercially, because you're like, oh, that's people's cars. I could screw up somebody's car, but like with game stores, you get all sorts of weird shit. Like, what? Sometimes it's really dope. I think a lot of people are chiming in. Sold boosters. The Huffset comic store sold boosters. Oh, like packs. Yes. David says the increase in SKU prices make the impulse to purchase stuff off the shelf harder. So, I do have a solution for that. Like, if you're a game store owner, there's a lot of products out there that you can actually purchase that are something that people would buy. Like, you've got Cromlech has miniatures as well as upgrade bits, and they're all in like little plastic blister packs. Stuff like that is still affordable. It scratches that itch that people come to a game store to spend that $10-20 to buy. You can stock a whole bunch of it. They have all sorts of great alternate varieties of things, and upgrade parts, etc. That's easily stockable. Wargame Exclusive has a lot of good things too. RTLW has a lot of good miniatures and upgrade stuff. All of those are super great ideas to get. Green Stuff World has a ton of hobby supplies and things like that. If they're not already stocking Army Painter, I definitely recommend Army Painter first. A lot easier to get here in the States. So there's a ton of stuff that you can mitigate that. Like, people would be really into, foam bags, battle foam, right? They got all sorts of, they pretty much have their own ecosystem at this point, from like, price point, like low price point to high price point, that also, covers utility and usage and things like that. Not everybody needs the super custom bag to carry around their Titan and willing to throw down the $500 on it. But everybody's, right here in this $100 to $200 price range for a case, right? So there's a lot of different things you can get to mitigate that as a store owner, and I think not everybody's into miniatures, and sometimes it shows, So, I mean, if you're a customer and you're into miniatures, you can always, suggest things, kind of point them. I mean, hell, have them call me. Like, I'll talk to them. Like, hit me up on Facebook. Like, I love talking to game store owners about pretty much anything. Like, I do that quite a bit during the day. I'll be talking to all sorts of people. So,
Jim, it's like, have you guys thought about doing a Kitchen Nightmares show for game stores?
I would love the shit out of that. If we could monetize it somehow,
that would make a great YouTube channel.
That would, dude. But I mean, see, that's the thing, is like this hobby and this industry is so niche within the niche. Yeah. Like, just the production value on that is like, you would need whomever to like actually go. You need your Gordon Ramsay, right, to go and do it. Then you need a cameraman for sure at that point. Then you need an editor. Then you need to transport to all these crazy, the cost of transportation, all these places. If it's me, I'm not flying. So I'm driving.
The dream is already dead. You're killing it. You're killing it before it even.
Dude, it would be cool if you could produce it to be, to be that entertainment thing, because I think it would resonate with a lot of people, because everybody's had that, oh my God, the store is a nightmare scenario. And oh my God, the store is the best scenario, because when you walk into a store, what you're working with. As soon as you walk in, you're like,
Doug, your shelf layout is terrible.
That
was one of the first things we were talking to the guy who runs our local shop, and like one of the first things we were talking to him about to like try to get the shop out from underwater was like, bro, your shelf layout is terrible. First off, like, you need to reorganize them shelves, and then just like holding stock of stuff that nobody buys, especially in the past. I mean, I'd say maybe time has moved on. The past 10 years, let's say, board games are not like a off the shelf browsing at the store experience anymore. People who are into board games buy those, pre-order them from wherever they're being made, buy them on Kickstarters, all that kind of stuff. Like that is where the consumer base has largely gone. And so if you're paying like some of these board games, like $100, $200 sometimes to get these stocks of board games with the big expansive ones, those will sit on your shelf until the heat death of the universe, because whoever was going to buy those already bought them when it released a year ago, or they bought all of the junk on the Kickstarter because of the way the Kickstarter stuff works, where you can get like A to Z through the Kickstarter, but retail stores are only going to get like the base set upon retail release. And then you have to wait months and months for any type of expansion to be fulfilled to shelf stock. So you just got to get rid of those. Like if you're running a game store, or like your local game store is having a trouble time, and you have a good rapport with the people that run it, like tell them to get rid of board games. Just like eat the cost, have a garage sale, or just like throw them in the trash. Like get rid of them, because they are literally wasting money on those shelves full of board games that nobody buys.
Board games is a very tough proposition as a game store owner. Very, very tough. It's either all or nothing, right? And everybody is folks will straight come in and just use your store as a showroom and then check on Amazon. So if you're not prepared to sell whatever stock you have of board games, which should be a significant stock if you're doing it right, if you're not prepared to be competitive on the pricing, same as Amazon and shit, I do not recommend carrying board games to your store.
Dude, do not carry board games.
And they will sit. They will not turn.
Well,
they will
also,
not turn as quick.
Unless you have a business model where you have like private rooms that people can rent out.
That's doable.
Well, yeah. So unless you have that, people do not come to your store to play board games. They come to your store to play Magic or other card games. They come to your store maybe to do some D&D stuff, which is, again, more so into if you have like the private rental rooms, or they come to like do tabletop wargaming. They do not come to like set up a 8-hour game of, something, whatever game that's like a 4X, Towers of Dunshire or whatever that fucking game was called, right? At like 6 p.m. after a work day. No,
right.
They do that on the weekends in the comfort of their own home with like 3 or 4 of their friends. They do not go out to the game store to play board games. So if you are selling board games, that is square footage in your store that is going to waste. And if square footage is going to waste, you are losing money.
Ideally you want to have the largest, I guess,
I heard a cat.
Yes, there's things happening. Diversification of products in your store so that you get the board game people, you get the Pokemon adults and kids that collect it. Not as many people play it. You want to sell every card game possible that you can. It all moves pretty quick, and if there's some hoops to jump through for organized play and things, but generally it's worth it. You can have a store champion or a store community leader to handle all that. The tabletop games, you definitely want a bunch of them. So you want to have the largest stock and the largest chances of people to come in and actually, purchase, hey, if I go there, I know it's there. Also, another thing to consider, and I forget the exact law that it's called, but it's a gaming game theory law that you actually probably want to be close to another game store. Shockingly, like a lot of people are like, why would you do that? And it's the same reason you see all the car dealerships next to each other. All the McDonald's, all the food places in towns are always next to each other, because the farther you are away from the concentration of these businesses is less percentage of the money that you're going to get from the people. Just the same reason you're going to have the largest diversification of stuff in your store. You want to be next to that concentration of folks that are going to come in, because if folks are going to come into town or whatever, just go to a particular area of the town you live in, which might be big, they want to know that they have the best chance to find the stuff that they want in one trip. So that's why you see all this stuff. And it's an actual law, and I forget it, game theory law, but being relatively close, not, you don't want to be on the same block or on top of people, but, within like 5 minutes ish of another game store is not a bad thing, to be quite honest. It's not a bad thing at all, because these stores have different communities and different takes and different, all sorts of things. And if there's enough people in the area, it's the same reason you see Walmart's next to Targets for the most part, like very close. Like there's a certain type of person that prefers to go to Walmart, certain type of person that prefers to go to Target. And it's the same thing in the gaming community. And you don't actually see a lot of that. A lot of times when you see game stores next to each other, it's like this big competition and blah, 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 blah. And like, nah, it's actually not. It's actually smart shit. But game store owners get butthurt because, they generally are very independent and don't want to work with other game stores, especially in the same town. And not a lot of towns can support multiple game stores, but the ones that can, it's actually a pretty smart idea.
Yeah.
That being said, this is not actual legal or business advice.
Yeah.
Let me just throw that disclaimer out there. This is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
It is definitely.
Well, it all depends on like we said, like community is really important to the identity of the store, like what you're selling and things of that nature. So, I mean, like if a store has been around for a while and they're like primarily a retail location, they sell like comics and they sell board games and they sell, it's primarily like a retail location. Having board games on the shelf is fine. It's just that when you go to a store, like I'll give you a little challenge you can do. Go to your local store, find a board game, like any board game on a shelf, and just kind of like make a mental note of it. And over time, as you go back to that store, maybe on a weekly basis, go back to that spot and see if it's still there. And I would bet you, like if we were in person, I would bet you a solid $20 bill that board game will be on that shelf for months, if not over a year to multiple years. Because small kitschy board games, like if we're talking like maybe like a little set up a small board card game kind of game, like Secret Werewolf or something like that, that's like a really easy, fun party style game. Those do sell. They don't sell a lot, but they do sell as like impulse buys, things like Munchkin and stuff like that.
Right.
Now, if we're talking like a full on board game, like something like Pandemic, or there's one I'm thinking of, I just can't remember the fucking name of it. I want to say Twilight Imperium, but that's like a PC game. Those are huge items that cost a lot. And they have tons and tons of expansions. And for the most part, the industry of people being catered to who are buying those, they're buying those on pre-order because like that's their jam. And so they're not going to a game store to like hunt one down and see if the store actually got one or whatever. Like they're either pre-ordering those direct from the makers or the distro place, or it's gone to Kickstarter, where it's like, if you get this Kickstarter, not only do you get the core game, but you get expansions A through D, with more on the way. Whereas if you wait for it to show up on retail, they're only going to have like the base core game for people who like didn't do the Kickstarter in the first place. But the wave has passed because everybody that was hyped up for it already bought it, which is why those board games sit on the shelf forever.
Yeah.
Like they almost never sell.
And I mean, in a lot of cases, you want to be turning your inventory. You want to be turning it per quarter, per 6 months. If you're not turning stuff after 6 months, you need to be dumping it because it's not working in your location. get rid of it, online, put it in clearance bin, whatever. But there's some stuff that you just want to stock. You got your what's the tiers everybody does on YouTube? You like your S tier, your B,
A tier, all that.
Yeah, you got your top tier sellers, you got your bottom tier sellers, your staples, you got your cash cows that are just going to turn. That shit's great. I found the law, by the way. It's Hotelling's law. You're going to love this. Hotelling's model of spatial competition.
Oh, is that the guy who invented hotels?
Maybe. I don't know. It's the theory of basically why businesses want to locate themselves near the center of their potential customer population to attract the greatest amount of customers. Now, that's why you always see all the shit next to each other. It's pretty smart. There's that.
Who is it? Jeff, like that's a really good question about your kind of like, that's what I would call like a clubhouse kind of thing. It can be done. Lots of people do it. Lots of people have done it for years. It's a little bit more popular in the States on the Eastern Coast. And it's really popular in the EU because big like retail locations are hard to come by. They're in really, really high demand. So when you live in areas where like rental space is at a premium, a lot of times it's easier for like a gaming group to rent out something really small that isn't prime retail location. Like think of like retail in like a strip mall or something with like a big storefront. Like those are really expensive. But if you're renting like, what's the word? Not office space, but like renting a couple of suites in like an industrial park, those are much less expensive. And they're private. It's not a store, so to speak. But if you get like a group of people to pitch in and you add new members over time, then it kind of pays for itself really fast.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of ways you can go about it, right? You just have to, the big thing is you gotta have money in the bank for bills and you gotta have it's just basic economics. You know how to balance your household. Yeah. You can balance a business. You just got to figure out, what works for your area, what works for your, what forecasting for whatever works for your particular business model, right? And there isn't a set. I would say there's probably way more wrong ways to go about it than actual right ways. So there is that, but I think we all have our favorites, and there's all places we enjoy going.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I think it's such a great idea. Like, I actually think that situation is so much better than a storefront situation because, your house, your rules. More so than anything else. You can also get because you have a physical location that is not a residence. You can get a GW independent trade sale account. And so what that means is that you can't tell them this, but what that means is that you can get that. And as a trade sale account, you buy that product at like 45% off retail cost. And as long as you don't advertise anything below a 10% discount, you can sell it at whatever you want. So if you have like a group of guys and gals, whatever, gaming team or whatever you want to do with it, you can just order whatever you want from GW whenever you want at 45% off. And then what you can do to incentivize membership is the more people pay for membership, like if you have a $100 a month membership fee, be like, well, not only do you get, a locker space and, first dibs on tables, but also don't tell anybody, but you can get GW price 45 off for anything you want to order. And that gets people to sign up for those memberships.
Yeah, there's definitely some slippery slopes, like where and what you're allowed to say and when it comes to that sort of thing. But it's not undoable as long as you abide by the rules. And hey, if you're paying the bills, they kind of doesn't matter at that point. It's only crazy if it doesn't work, right? So I think there's a lot of that. I don't know if Kenny's coming back. Should we?
No, he had to take the doggo to the vet. Don't know if he's going to come back in time.
Oh, geez. That's not the greatest. Hopefully that works out okay. Well, I guess
I got these in the mail. I can do a little show and tell.
What you got?
So I saw this ad for decals on Facebook from the Mighty Brush.
Mighty Brush, uh-huh.
Mightybrush.com. And I was like, oh, okay, let me see. They have, decals. I want some.
Mm-hmm.
And they're cheap. They're what industry like scale model people sell decal sheets for, which is like $5. They're cheap. Mm-hmm. And it's all the stuff you want. So if you like, oh, I want to do first company, whole page of first company, not just like 2 on a sheet, right? If you want to do something like fourth company, they have a whole thing of fourth company logos, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And if you want like tactical markings, you get a whole page of really high quality tactical markings, enough to do multiple squads from one page. And these are good quality. Games Workshop has high quality water slide decals.
Oh yeah. Generally.
So these I would say are probably about the same, if not better quality than those. But they're way cheaper and you can get them individually whenever you want. And they have all sorts of stuff. Like these are just some Space Marine ones to update my Ultramarines when I add a few more squads. But if you want stuff for Night Titans, if you want Chaos, if you want Tau, if you want Health, like they have stuff for every stuff, right? They do ship from the UK, so it might take a week or 2 to get it, but
they're going pretty good these days.
Not really in much of a rush, but I was like, you know what? I've seen this ad a number of times. I'm going to give it a try. And really high quality water slide decals. And they have a lot of really cool stuff. Because like one thing that always bothered me with the Citadel ones is like you either never have enough of the ones that you want, or they don't have the decal that you are picturing in your head. They don't have what you want, especially now that they've kind of homogenized all the decal sheets. So it's like, well, there's entire legions that don't even exist on the CSM decal sheet. And the only decal sheet you get with Space Marines is the Ultramarines one now, which I'm not complaining about, but a lot of people would.
I think a lot of people are going to want Ultramarine decals and stuff here very soon. I could do a little show and tell. I have a few things kicking around if people want to see it, I suppose. Some I don't think anything unreleased, maybe something. I know one of these things just came out today from Creature Caster. Oh, I do have some unreleased stuff. Hold on, let me grab a stack here. See if people want to take a look.
I don't know if I may have shown this.
Describe it with words because.
Hey, what are you doing?
A friend of mine has
the words.
An Etsy shop where he does laser cut stuff, and this is one of their newer products. It's a measuring widget, but the cool thing is you can probably see the magnets. It's a nesting widget. So you have like the big long one, and then this part comes off for tighter measurements. And then there's a little hole in the back. The little one comes off for when you're doing real tiny measurements, fight phase kind of stuff. And it's all magnetized. You can get it in a bunch of different colors. This is painted. I got the burnt orange, but he also has, here they are. He makes a lot of like dials and counters and stuff. So these, I wanted some grudge tokens for my Votan. You can see there's the number, and these are really cool because you can only ever have 3. Okay. So it goes from, 1, 2, 3, and has this really cool kind of like star pattern looking thing to it. Really neat. Again, you can get those in different colors. He's got stuff like Imperial Guard order tokens, wound trackers, all sorts of really cool stuff for good. That's letter J 15 games on Etsy.
Oh, has he come out with anything new? I think we covered the
yeah,
guard stuff in the Voton.
I think he was working on well, hold on. I know some stuff that I'm not supposed to talk about yet.
No.
Let me find his Etsy shop.
I hadn't heard from him in a while, so I wasn't sure if he came out with anything newish.
I suppose we can throw some news in there too. Do a quick show and tell and do some news and like Kenny piece it all together.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't want to inspect it. God damn it. I hate it when I do that.
Have fun with that one.
Okay. There's the link. Did he come out with anything new?
J15 games?
Yeah. Looks like some of the other stuff is still in the works, but he did release the order dials and the so you can get regimental ones and mechanized ones because you have tank orders. He does custom orders. He's been doing a lot of custom dice trays that are really nice because he can do the laser etching in leather. So he'll have the dice tray with a leather floor, and then whatever you want etched onto that leather, which is really cool. Like they're super classy looking.
Right.
There's some other stuff that's coming down the pipe, but I can't talk about it yet.
That's fair. All right, I got a few things here. So if you're not watching live, I guess this is going to get turned into a podcast. So we got I printed out a bunch of the Puppets War not Tyranids.
Oh yeah, he's got some really cool art style designs. That's a beefy boy.
Yeah, this is what's the brain bug for them? He's on a 130 round. This thing is
this thing that walks. God damn it.
Not the one with the tentacles. I forget.
It's not an Ultralisk Ted. Come on. Hold
on, let me go. Malceptor, is that it?
It might be the Maliceptor.
I think it's the Malceptor. Okay. So that thing is, dude, this thing is a chonk. Holy cow.
It is. God damn it is.
This thing, I mean, I think it's about the same size as yeah.
I got an order from you recently for some tank upgrades for the Gladiator tanks and Predator tanks.
Oh yeah.
And those turrets are really nice.
That was a Pop Goes the Monkey.
Yeah, some super nice ones.
I think he calls those the Phobos tank upgrades.
Yeah. Got the ones with the Ultramarines chapter stuff on them, looking really nice.
Yeah, those will work pretty good as upgrades. What else do we have? Okay, so then there's a bunch of different, like these are 50 millimeter, but they're basically all tentacles. Like one's a venom throat, one's a zoanthrope.
Oops, all tentacles.
Oops, all tentacles.
I've seen enough inside to know where this is going.
Yeah. They're pretty chill. Like I really like the design on these.
I bet those are dope too, because your resin is so like, I don't want to say bendy because bendy seems bad, but like they have a really high tensile strength resin. So they don't shatter. They don't snap.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's very important and why we spent so long developing the resin that we use is because it's, I mean, obviously don't drop your minis, but I've dropped this stuff on concrete and it just kind of bounces. That's pretty cool. So it's very resilient as far as that goes. Then they have a Tyrant Guard / Hive Guard alternative as well. That fits pretty good on a 50 mil. It's very dynamic for, the four legs, because kind of strutting, doing its thing. These ones are cool. But what I really like, I think my favorite, they got the little, which one's, this one's my favorite. This Lictor looking dude on a 50 mil, just striding.
Yeah, he's cool.
He's got arms everywhere. And he's just kind of like straight Cthulhu, me mugging,
Nice.
just chilling. Now, that one's my favorite. And then they got a pretty good looking Swarm Lord
Oh, he's chunky too.
alternative. Yeah, I mean, they're about the same size as the plastic ones. You just don't really realize it until it's printing in your printer and you're like, that looks really big, because, you know, when you get the kit, it's all on sprues and then you put it together and you're like, oh,
Are those
okay,
up on
cool.
are those up on the store?
What's that?
Are those up on the store?
No, these are Puppets War.
Oh, you don't have a contract with them?
Nah, we're not. We don't produce their stuff.
Sag.
Maybe in the future, I don't know, but they sell their own resin and they have resin casts of their stuff eventually. They have a whole like path to market. Like you get the files on Patreon, then they make it a resin, then you can buy it 3D printed. So like, I mean, we kind of don't need to sell it for them either, you know, because they kind of got a thing going on. So there's a ton of stuff over there. You know, check them out. They got alternatives for orcs, nids, space marines, all the cool things that everybody's gonna want.
Dope.
Going in the 10th. What was it? These just came out from Creature Caster. Almost got some of them together. This guy right here is the Malice guy. Absolute Malice. Now, of course, he doesn't have his wings on and stuff.
Yeah, I saw a thing for him.
Yeah, he just went live today. This guy's actually, you know, very dynamic. Like he's kind of coming out of this swirly of demon stuff that you could kind of paint as whatever, like green, fire,
cool,
purple, whatever. And it's hollow. Like they made this like hollow, like kind of cone thing that it kind of mounts to. So that was really cool to see. And he's got a couple different weapons. Then they got that Dawn miniatures, I think they're called. I don't quite know, but they're CO cast, but they all look like kind of like Assassin's Creed chicks.
Oh.
Or like Ranger of Ios, if you're familiar with Iron Kingdoms at all. They all look like derivatives of that. Like crazy, like clandestine warrior ladies. Not nuns necessarily. So that was all cool stuff. I got a couple more miniatures. These are cool upgrades too. If you have a Leviathan, a plastic Leviathan, from the Horus Heresy plastics, Liber Demonica makes upgrade kits for them. This here, these are Thousand Suns alternative upgrade kits, and you can see the little feetsies here. I don't know if the camera's gonna focus on it.
Yeah,
but it's got all the glyphs and everything in the feats armor. And then they have dope shoulder pads. Like here's this kind of scarabee shoulder pad. These are gonna look great on a Leviathan Dreadnought, like whatever chapter you're digging. And then they got the shoulder armor too that you put on, you know, both sides, the plastic. Cool. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, there's a ton of parts too. Like there's a fat sack of upgrade parts. So pretty much anything that could be upgraded, any surface. And I think these are pretty affordable too. Like I want to say they're less than $30, like for the whole kit, which is like kind of crazy when you think about it, when it's like $30 to get a front plate for the Contemptor or Forge World. It's a little savage. Put this away. I did want to show you guys how massive the Speedpaint set is, though.
Big box.
What's that?
Big old box.
Yeah, dude, this thing is holy cow. You could kill a person with this thing.
I'm sure that's the advertisement plug they want.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh my gosh. Look how big this thing is. It's like bigger than my face.
That's what she said.
But I mean, dude, look, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, basically 4 purples. There's like 4 of every color, like any shade. Look how wide the greens are. Like this huge variance of greens, huge run of blues. Like I would say greens they have the most of, because then they slide down to right here too. And it goes into like some more of the pale greens and stuff. They even have pastels.
Oh,
like
wow.
This set isn't for everybody. Obviously, it's $400, but I can see where some people would want it.
Yeah.
Like I think the Mega Paint set will be good for most people, or just like the wash set, the metallic set, or not the wash set, the metallic set. The starter set would be really good if you just want to try them out and be like, is this for me? Do I like the style? Like, don't buy this first, obviously, unless you know you really, really like this stuff, because then you're going to want this, of course. But I mean, just the variants, and then you get all the metallics. I mean, there's 4 different, they go from magenta up to a pink here. The yellows, these are probably the biggest like variety of yellows in a kind of contrasty style paint. So I'm really excited to mess around with that, because I got a bunch of Marvel figures. And when it comes to superheroes, I was never super satisfied, even with the contrast side. I was never super satisfied with all the offerings, because there's, you know how Marvel superheroes are. There's so many different colors. They have like just so many different people. And if you want to paint up all your minis, you're going to need to be like mixing a lot of stuff and like getting crazy. And then it's like, you can't reproduce the results. But with this, I feel like this is the way to go. Like for MCP, this would be dope. Maybe Star Wars Legion too, somewhat, but or board games just in general. Oh my gosh, Speedpaint, super good for board games. Holy cow! I think that.
Be happy when I can get back to painting. I have such a backlog.
Yeah, that's a bummer, dude. I mean,
things are going good. It's just still taking a while.
Well, it'll definitely be nice to see you out and about and showing off the latest and greatest army you painted up. Probably Ultramarines. With the new box.
Yeah. I mean, if they only have like 5 Terminators in that new box, like I'm gonna hand out some OTP HJs, maybe even some ZJs to get my hands on them.
They look good, that's for sure. I don't know. She's building a nest over there. I don't know what she's doing. She's like, I'm gonna make as much noise as possible. You want to do a little bit of news? See, there obviously wasn't a lot of previews this week for GW, and we're going to see all that this weekend at Warhammer Fest.
I don't know. Is there anything actually like hype, or is it just sort of?
I think so. I mean,
is it GW news, or is there other stuff?
Not necessarily all GW. I mean,
can we just say like not 40K, therefore.
Well, you got to keep your ears to the ground and your finger on the pulse of the gaming scene in general.
No new Blood Bowl.
Check the new Blood Bowl.
Check. It's gotta be 40K or Blood Bowl, or I don't care.
No, there was none of that.
Brandon, yeah, if you go over to the Spiky Bits website, there's a made to order shop of all sorts of different things.
Yeah, there's a ton of miniatures for sale over there.
Oh yeah, let me do a shameless plug. It's a little dusty, but I keep them on the shelf at all times. So if you want a super custom Marnius Calgar, like the old 4th edition artwork,
yeah,
I own the license to that, and therefore Rob can sell it. So you can pick one of those up from the shop.
I think we put the link in all the podcasts, like by Wyatt's Miniature. That's the one.
Tight. Yeah. What did you name him? It's not Marnius Calgar. It's like,
I want to say it's Augustus.
Yeah, Augustus. Old Augustus.
Old Augustus. I remember Augustus when he was a wee lad. Yeah, that's definitely over there. So check that out. Well, I'll just run down stuff. We talked about the Absolute Mouse model from Creature Caster that just came out today. I think it's limited to 130 in each market. That stuff, tends to go pretty quick from Creature Casters. Check it out. That's your jams. If you're into those Joy Toys, those wacky, wild, wonderful Joy Toys, more pre-orders up this week. They've got, what's that?
They're just killing it. I'm always excited to hear more about what they're releasing.
Dude, they just straight like put out that Terminator Chaplain that was like limited edition all those years ago. They just straight like,
They just made a joy toy of
huh?
They made a joy toy of him.
Yeah, they're just like,
awesome.
they didn't even preview it. They're just like, yeah, this guy's up for pre-order right now. Go get it. Like, what? And it looks great.
Oh, hell's yeah, dude.
He's a chunky boy. So they got that guy. They got some Iron Hands. They got some Salamander versions of, all the existing Marine Primaris models that or action figures that they've come out with already. So those are all up for pre-order right now. Of course, like 2 weeks ago, we saw Celestine had a model, so they're always coming out with something. I can't wait till they do an Imperial Knight. That's going to be dope. Can't wait to see that. So they're always coming out with something. Keep an eye on it. Eternal Crusade, the video game, if you remember that at all, it was kind of
dog shit. Yeah.
It was never quite finished.
Yeah, that was, I forget his name, but that was when DICE had that I don't remember if he was the CEO or like the creative director, but he made a lot of promises he didn't keep on a number of games.
I think a lot of people made a lot of promises about that game and it never quite came through. Might have called them out on it a couple of times on the site about 5 years ago. Well, it is returning. They are bringing it back in a non-commercial kind of format, and it looks to be progressing. There was an official announcement. You can just Google it to find the actual YouTube trailer. And if you want more details, they're all out there. Nothing quite playable yet.
I had no idea they made an ATV, dude.
What? I'm
just looking at the Flyema toy website for all the Joy Toy shit, and there's a bunch of stuff I didn't know they made. Like
what, the Invader?
Yeah, I didn't know they made an Invader.
Oh, I thought I showed that on the show. I got one of those.
You got one? Oh my god!
Dude, check it out. Where is it? Oh, there it is.
These battle suits look fucking sick.
This guy?
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. I remember that because it doesn't come with the two guys, right?
You got to buy the guys separate.
Sad. Oh
yeah, but
there's a lot of new stuff on here. Like I didn't know they came out with different Chaos Space Marines than the Black Legion. There's Sisters of Battle now, including Paragon war suits.
Yep.
They got Raven Guard guys. They got Imperial Fist guys, Dark Angels, Tempestus Scions.
Oh yeah, the Scions came out with the Celestine.
This Wolf or Iron Priest for the Space Wolves. He looks really cool.
Yeah, he looks good.
Some Salamanders and Iron Hands. Man, they're killing it with these.
The Paragon Warsuit has metal joints, metal reinforced joints, so they will stay in place.
Oh my god!
When you pose them,
they got two different kinds too.
What's that?
They got two different kinds. They got
a few different orders.
The Bloody Rose and Argent Shroud. Oh. These are really easy to repaint, so I guess you can paint them however you want. But
so cool. Kenny's checking in, saying he's at the bets.
Yeah. Shadow Sun looks really good
with his dog. Been a wild week for him. Shadow Sun. Oh yeah, Shadow Sun's cool. I got her. She's you can probably see her behind me on the shelf there. Yeah. That's a cool model. So there's always something dope coming out for them. Eternal Crusade's coming back. More on the toy scene. Hasbro and Mattel announced, I think yesterday, I want to say, that they're going to be teaming up to do some collabs, starting with the summer blockbuster movie season. So we'll see some Transform products and stuff coming from Mattel and vice versa from Hasbro, which definitely opens the door to some really interesting Magic card possibilities, I suppose. But who really knows? But it's tough out there for everybody. If you got two of the biggest rival toy makers in the world teaming up to get that extra cheddar, gonna see some wild stuff here from that. So I can't wait to see what that sorts out. And on the Hasbro side of things, you may or may not have heard about this from your local Magic card players, but the Wizards of the Coast sent a private security agency to
yeah,
to a YouTuber's door, to retrieve some product he spoiled.
They went full like 1886 on him and called the Pinkertons, which is wild. That still exists.
Yeah, like the actual Pinkertons, they still exist. Yeah, they still exist. Yeah, that was a wild thing. So definitely check out. I think it was Old School MTG is the YouTube channel. He kind of walks everybody through what happened. No video footage, no nothing like that. But pretty interesting precedent set by Wizards of the Coast. I would say they made an example of him on purpose, sending a draconian firm of
so weird. I wonder if there's more to the story. Like, I wonder if they were like, "Hey, our bad. Could you send those back, please? Like, we'll give you a coupon or something." Or if it was just straight, like, you know, hit the giant red alert button, call the Pinkertons.
Well, I think that's kind of what it was, and you know, when they, I guess as the story is told, they were like, "Hey, we need everything. We need the plastic wrap. We need the packs. We need everything. We want your trash. We want it all." Because each pack has a traceable code. Like they'll be able to backtrace it through who they shipped it to and things like that. And there's a reason they do that. And obviously this is it once things like this happen. But they straight up like, they gave him a phone number. Apparently he's going to be compensated, you know, for the product that he had, because supposedly he did pay for it. And you can't just show up at someone's house and be like, "Yo, I want that." Like,
I mean, apparently you can.
That's stealing.
They did.
There's a lot of things that went down with that scenario that I don't think would go down in certain other areas or certain, like, I know that wouldn't go down at my house.
Yeah. I mean, if they showed up and they were like, "We're with the Pinkerton Detective Agency," I probably would have been like, "No, you're not. Those don't exist."
Yeah. First of all, I'd laugh. But second of all, I don't even, I would see them. Yeah. It's a whole thing. But yeah, just y'all remember your rights. Like, first, I really
want to see that. Like, how did they, like, because they didn't have a warrant or anything. They're private detectives. Yeah.
I don't invite the vampire in, is all I gotta say.
I don't think that would happen in a lot of parts of Texas.
Yeah, I think a lot of people with any sense probably not.
I think I would have channeled my inner, like, you know, like ninth generation Texan and been like, I mean, I'll kill some Pinkertons.
Yeah, I imagine they were strapped.
That's probably like some really good street cred too. Be like, not only am I from Texas, but my name is Wyatt. Also, I killed Pinkerton detectives. I'm a legit cowboy.
That would definitely that would get you on Wikipedia. I think you'd definitely be an entry on Wikipedia for sure. But like, yeah, I don't wake up in the morning like, "Yo, I'm gonna go battle." I'm just like, "Yo, I need to go poo." First of all, but you know, just remember your rights out there, people. Like, straight up, don't get bullied like that. It's just,
it just seems so. I don't know. Maybe he's just one of those people that's like never been in a situation, like didn't know his rights. That can be very scary. Like, you know, all jokes aside, like maybe he just complied to make sure nothing bad went down. Who knows?
I mean, there's a ton of different scenarios and we just ultimately don't know what happened, but you know, like there's ways to go about things. Yeah, it's hard to say because we just don't know. We just had that one dude's side of the story told by him, you know, so, but I hope it all gets sorted out. And that it definitely set an example for people leaking stuff because I don't think what he particularly did was right. Leaking that stuff so early because not only did he
call of the content maybe a little too strong.
Yeah. You know, he definitely cost Wizards some money, undisclosed amount, right? But definitely provable. He also, you know, kind of effed over a lot of other content creators who, you know, the Magic community is a lot bigger. You know, a lot of these folks, that's how they eat. That's how they get their snaps, you know, like that. probably wasn't a good look. Certain sites get to spoil cards. That's their thing. Like, hey, here's your cards to spoil on this day, or, to reveal, because it's all coordinated, and all that's thrown out the window. So now they got to go back and refigure all that out, or just act like it didn't even happen. And here they are. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, what he did was probably not the best idea. He did get something by mistake. He didn't have to do it the way he did. And I think, that's a personal choice. And obviously there was, something happened.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, something definitely happened. So
people are asking what the Pinkerton Detective Agency is. So people call them Pinkertons, but it's the Pinkerton Detective Agency. It goes way far back in American history. They're a really big organized firm, I guess is the proper term, private detectives. But they were also known to kind of be like, I think mercenary is actually a pretty good word for what they were hired to do a lot of the times. Like they would go in and they would do some unsavory business. They would do things like break up unions, like worker strikes, all sorts of real nasty business. I assumed like maybe they reformed their image, but I mean, like if you've seen, 4 out of 5 Westerns, there's probably a reference to some Pinkerton detectives being unsavory, kind of skeezy dudes.
They were in Red Dead Redemption, they were basically the antagonists.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind there. So yeah, they've been around for a while and they're still out there, and they roll deep. But yeah, that was an interesting story. Didn't expect to be talking about that. Also, Pokemon cards are completely sold out in Japan. Pokemon TCG completely sold out. The latest 2 expansion sets, which haven't come out here in the States yet. Not only those, but apparently they put some sort of checklist in there listing all the other current product that you could buy. And that basically did its job, because everybody needed to collect them all based on the checklist, and they bought all this shit.
Oh, so like legitimately, they're all
legitimately.
Wow.
Not just the expansion sets, but like everything else in their warehouse in Japan, completely sold out.
There's a bank run on Pokemon cards?
There's a bank run on Pokemon cards in Japan.
Well, good for them, I guess. They just made a lot of money.
I mean, they put out a statement. They're like, yeah, we didn't, apologizing. We didn't make enough stuff, big ups on them to actually have the chops to go out there and do it, and say, hey, we're sorry, we effed up, instead of doing stupid caps and shit and hamstringing game stores. I mean, it's hard to get Pokemon product here in the States to begin with. Remember when the pandemic was happening and people were taking those air tags and figuring out who was delivering the cards and putting them on their vehicles so they would know the next time they came to like Walmart and shit, so they could buy them. So
people need their Pokemans, dude.
Yeah, they get them Pokemon cards, yes. So that Pokemon real hot right now. Real hot.
So hot.
So that's all the big gaming scene news, I guess, out there that I'm tracking. Obviously the previews are this weekend for Games Workshop, starting at 4 a.m. Eastern on Saturday morning. I imagine most of you listening are not going to wake up to watch them. Just check it out as soon as you wake up on Saturday. It's because they're 40K, so they're coming out the gate with the big one right off the bat, and then there'll be another one at 12 that day, which I think is for some of the indie stuff, and then Sunday will be the Heresy / Old World in the same show, which is going to be the big interesting one. I think that's also at the 12 noon, so that'd be 7 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. So again, when you wake up, all this stuff will be out there. And then Monday is Kill Team at 7 a.m. Eastern as well. I guess it's a bank holiday over there because the round 8 and 9 of their tournament, and also a preview is Monday morning. Who knew?
That'll be cool.
Yeah, it'll definitely be exciting to watch. So, well, that's all I got. I think normally we get done about this time.
Yeah, just about. Not a whole lot going on this week.
I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on to begin with. Not having a traditionally structured show. So I don't know what y'all will be hearing when Kenny stitches all this together, but hope you enjoy it all the same.
I watched that new animated Batman movie.
Which one's that?
The Doom that came to Gotham. Based on it's Elseworlds.
Oh, okay.
Where it kind of combines. See, this is where I'm confused. I'm not like a reader of comics, but it definitely has the vibe of Gotham by Gaslight. But I don't know if it's directly related to Gotham by Gaslight, because the film is like Batman's return to Gotham, his first time going out as Batman, but it's like the 20s. Mm-hmm. And it has like H.P. Lovecraft. So it's like H.P. Lovecraft, Batman, mashup, the Doom that came to Gotham. It's really cool.
Oh. I actually don't follow along with a lot of DC comics, so I don't have a good grip on what that's supposed to be.
It was a really cool one. I thought it was neat to see that aspect of lore mashup. It was neat. I thought it was a good movie. It's fun.
I mean, most of them are, and I'm sure they're a lot easier to put out than an actual movie. And they haven't been putting out the best movies. To be honest.
Live action.
Yeah.
I also watched the new Ant-Man the other day. And I thought it was fine. I don't know what everybody had their panties in a twist about. I was like, bro, dude. Okay. If you can imagine this. So me and Greg were watching it, and it was like, if Marvel went into the Rick and Morty universe, the quantum verse is literally it's like Rick and Morty. Everything has that vibe. It's wacky. It's wild. There's so many weird, cool world building things going on down there. I will admit that MODOK was a weird character and looks a little strange, but I mean, everything in the Quantumverse looks strange and kind of weird and off-putting. And I thought it was fun. It was fine.
I don't know. Some people don't like this season or this season 3 of Mandalorian.
Well, they're just objectively wrong, because this season was a banger.
I enjoyed it.
Season, yeah.
I enjoyed it. Definitely leaves some room to fill in with more story arcs.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. They got some new stuff coming up, right? There's going to be new Star Wars Visions on May 4th.
Yep,
that's going to be neat. And then what was the other show?
I think Andor is getting another season.
I just saw a thing. Oh, okay. Yeah. So Visions, and then a kid show. Oh, so Ahsoka isn't happening until August. All right.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's going to be that whole Grand Admiral Thrawn arc.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
See what they do with that. If Timothy's on it, or if it's going to go in a different direction to kind of get to the last 3 movies that they produced.
We'll see what happens. I'm always excited for new Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, I haven't been disappointed at all. Yeah, whatever. All right, well, what do you say we go? Duff's back from his cruise. Let's see if he has a tan. You want to go raid him?
I guess we can, I guess.